Today I'm going to be teaching you the IPA, or the International Phonetic Alphabets. I'm really excited about this. I'm going to try to contain my excitement so that I don't talk too loud. But yeah, before I start teaching you, I will give a brief explanation of what the IPA is and what it's used for. Yeah, this probably looks a bit overwhelming, but it's really not as complicated as it looks. So in general, the IPA, or the International Phonetic Alphabet, is an alphabet that can account for theoretically every sound that the human vocal cavities in the surrounding areas could possibly make. So using this universal alphabet, we could transcribe or write out a written form of every human language. And this is a really important system that linguists use. Linguists are scholars who research and study languages. That was my major, and I have a degree in that. I can say that now. I recently graduated, so I officially have a degree in linguistics. I guess maybe I'm a linguist. But yeah, linguists use a standardized writing system across the world so that they can accurately communicate and represent sounds, and so we don't get confused with using different alphabets. Could get really messy if you think about it. If a researcher from America uses one alphabet, and then from France they use another, and China they use another, whatever, it would be really confusing when publishing research about a language or a sound system. So yeah, anyway, this makes it really easy, and technically any language in the world could be written out using this alphabet, allegedly, unless there's a language with another sound that this doesn't account for. This version I got from the internet. I just googled IPA chart, and this says that it was revised in 1993. I don't know how well you guys can see. Revised in 1993, then corrected in 1996. I think this is pretty standard what a lot of linguists use. This is how it was taught to me, so this is what I'll be using to teach you today, okay? Yeah. Woo, woo, woo. So basically what I plan on doing is I will go through all of these basic consonants, and then if we have time, I might go through the vowel chart. I don't think we'll be going over the, what are these, the non-pulmonic? Yeah, the non-pulmonic consonants. They're very difficult. Maybe if we have time, I'll go over it, or in another video if people like this video. Yeah, and then other symbols. There's actually a lot more extra detail symbols to account for things like clicks. I don't think clicks are, oh, they are, here's the clicks. Yeah, more than just typical consonants that at least us English speakers would think exist. There's a whole lot of other sounds that humans can make, and that they do make in different languages across the world. Anyway, I'll just be going over these consonants to start. And yeah, so I guess let's get started. So you might notice that this consonants chart here has some categories listed at the top going across, and then going across the side as well. You might be wondering, what does that mean? What are these words like bilabial, labiodental, etc., etc.? Well, across the top here, this is describing the place of articulation. And down here, this is describing the manner of articulation. So if I'm just gonna break it down really simply. not get too complicated. But basically, when we make a consonant sound, there's two things that dictate or control how the sound is made. There is where contact is being made in the mouth, starting from bilabial, which means two lips, labiodental, which means lip and tooth, dental, which means tooth, alveolar, which means the alveolar ridge right behind the teeth. Postalveolar is just a little bit behind that, and I'll explain in a bit more detail in a second. But yeah, each location as we go down the chart becomes farther back in the mouth because there's always a point of contact somewhere in the vocal cavities to oral cavities to make a sound, a consonant at least. And then second, so that was the place. There has to be a place where a consonant is created. And then if we go down the side, remember I said manner of articulation. There's also a manner or a way that the air coming out of the mouth needs to be manipulated, I would say. So the way that the sound is being made can be through a plosive, nasal, trill, tap or flap, fricative, lateral fricative, approximant, lateral approximant. So, where shall I start? I guess I didn't really plan how I was going to explain these, but I guess first, I will, okay, go through each of these categories. Would be a good place to start. So, this first going through the places of articulation, starting with bilabial. Bilabial means two lips. So, the place where the consonant is being created, we can say, is using the two lips. So, a good example for many English speakers would be the letters P and B, which just happen to be written the same exact way, and the IPA makes it very simple. So, when we say pa or ba, you see that your lips make contact, ba, and then release when the air is pushed through. And it creates that sound using your two lips. Okay? So that is bilabial. And there's more bilabial consonants that I will go through. Okay, this is labiodental. So labiodental has that word labial, which means lip, but then dental, which means teeth. So it's when contact is made between the teeth and the lips. In English, I'll use this as an example. We have the F sound and the V sound, fa and va, fa and va. You notice that contact is almost being made between the top teeth and the bottom lip. Maybe it's easier if you go va, va. You can feel some friction happening here where the air is being pushed out really close between this teeth and this lip. So it's an example of labiodental sounds. Next, for the dental place of articulation, it is just teeth. And there's only one pair of dental consonants, and those would be do. This is the tha and the sound. So think of it as the TH sounds, the and the. So the, this, and then the. So that's happening with contact between the teeth. Okay, and then we have the alveolar sounds. Alveolar. For the longest time, I used to say this as alveolar, and I don't think that's how you're supposed to say it. I think my professors always said alveolar, so we're gonna go with that. But alveolar is when contact is being made between the tongue and right on this place called the alveolar ridge. You can't really see it, but it's right behind the teeth, like the most front spot on the roof of your mouth, like right Yeah, I'm sure you can imagine right behind the teeth. It's called the alveolar ridge. So the tongue is making contact or close contact right there. Maybe I didn't say it before with dental, but it was the tongue making contact between the two teeth. Sorry. But yeah, and there we have a lot of these sounds in English. I'll just use these two, T and D, ta and da, ta and da. I'm sure if you make those sounds, ta and da, you can feel your tongue against or right behind the back of your teeth, right? Okay, and then next we have post-alveolar, which is just right behind the alveolar ridge. So we do not have, oh we do, I was thinking retroflex. There's only two post-alveolar sounds, and it's post-alveolar fricatives. I'll talk about what a fricative is later. And this is the sha and ja sound. Sha and ja. So think of like a sh. Shh, shh, shh. That sound is being created just behind where this sound would be created. This is sa and za. If you go s and then move your tongue back a little bit, s, it becomes sh, sh, s, sh. Okay? And then if we go back a bit further, we come over here to the retroflex, which is behind the post-alveolar ridge, getting up towards more the roof of your mouth is where the point of contact is. And I don't believe we have any of these sounds in English, but in a lot of, I believe in a lot of Indian languages, perhaps Urdu. I'm not too familiar with specific Indian languages, but I believe they do have a lot of these sounds. And if you just pronounce it the same way as you would in English, the T and the D, but move your tongue back to almost to the roof of your mouth, you're kind of curling your tongue back. You go like ta and da, ta 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 da, ta da na, sha ja, like that. I know it might sound a little funny if you're not used to that sound, but these sounds are in a lot of languages all over the world. Good to know. Okay, and then we move back to further, and you will get to the palatal place of articulation, and this is on the palate. It's kind of using like the palate of the tongue and the top roof of the mouth. So with these sounds, there's contact being made with the roof of the mouth, but it's not with the blade or the tip of the tongue. It's kind of with the flattened, more middle to back part of the tongue, which I believe why it's called palatal. And the only palatal sound that we have in English, I think, is this Y. It's the Y sound. It's written with a J in the IPA, but it's ya, ya, ya. And it's an approximant, which means that it's almost touching, but not quite. There's some space between. And so if you make the ya sound, you can kind of feel that your tongue is flat, right? But it's getting up close to the roof of the mouth. For example, I'll do the, if we bring the tongue up like closer to be the plosive one, this is really hard for me to do, but this is in some, like, I think Scandinavian languages. It's like kya, 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 yeah. Okay, and then velar is at the velar, what is it called? The velum? The velum. So the velum is I think it's cartilage between the back of the throat to the opening of the nose, and the velum is actually what closes or opens the nasal cavities. So when we make some nasally sounds like na, the velum is open and allows the air to come out through the nose. That's not really important right now. I'll get more into that when we talk about nasal sounds. Sorry, but anyway, at that place, it's behind the roof of the mouth, so now we're getting to like the beginning of the throat. We have velar sounds. For example, ka and ga. I bet if you really think about it, you can feel your tongue going up towards like the top of the throat and making quick contact when you go ka, ka, or ga, ga, ka, ga. You can feel it right there in your throat. That's at the velar place of articulation. Okay. And then we have uvular. Uvular sounds are fun, and they are making contact at, yes, the, what is it called? I forget this word all the time. The uvular? This guy in your throat? What the heck? I just forgot it. You know, the thing that hangs down in your throat? Oh my god, what is that called? Uvular? Uvula, obviously. Sorry. Okay, so the uvula is making contact, I think at the back of the throat for some of these. We do not have this in English. Do we have this? Not really. Well, we don't have that. Okay, so we don't have uvular sounds in English. The only one that might be more familiar with English speakers is the nasal, and it's like nga, nga, nga. So it's kind of like the ing sound, but that's more of this, which would be like but if you go back further, then you can go and you can feel your uvula going like It's kind of difficult. But yeah, uvular sounds use the uvula. Okay, and then second to last, we have pharyngeal sounds. These are very difficult for me to make. We do not have pharyngeal sounds in English, at least American English. But I believe French and Arabic use these sounds. It's very throaty. I don't like making this sound, but I will do it for the sake of the video. I think it might also be in German, but it's like ha, ha, ha. That's all I'm gonna do. Okay, thank you. And then we have the glottal sounds. We have the glottal stop. I love this guy. He looks like a little question mark. The glottal stop is in tons of languages, and the H sound. But the glottal is the farthest back, so it's like literally your air windpipe here. And so it's, yeah, either friction or like stopping airflow here in the throat to make a sound. So in English, when we do the glottal stop, little, no, Okay, so if you want to be cute and say no, you say like That stop between Do you see how you're suddenly stopping the air, going That stop is contact. It's this glottal place of articulation. Or you could just make the H sound and go ha, ha. Do you feel the air is kind of making friction in your throat? Ha, ha, yeah. That's the glottal place of articulation. Okay. So those are all the places of articulation. And then we have the manners of articulation, which I've talked about a little bit. I'm going to switch sides here. I've talked about a little bit when explaining some sounds, but I'll just go through each one in detail. So when we talk about manners of articulation, we are talking about how the air coming up through the lungs and out through the mouth is being manipulated, because we need air to make sounds. You cannot have any sounds without air coming out of your lungs and out of your mouth, or in some cases into your mouth, but that's when we get down here. We won't be talking about that today, maybe. Yeah, so starting with plosive. Plosive sounds kind of like explosive, right? So you can think of pressure being built up by full contact is made between two places. So in this case, bilabial, two lips, right? We are having full contact between this point. And then ba. Suddenly, ba. The air pressure is built up and released. Ba. Like a little explosion. That's how we make the B sound or the P sound. Ba, 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 ba. Yeah. So for a plosive, the air is being completely obstructed and stopped. Pressure's built up and then released. So pa, ba, ta, da. Yeah. Similar to at the alveolar ridge with the T and the D. Your tongue fully touches, stops airflow, and then is released. Ta, da. Do you understand? I hope you understand. Yeah, same thing. We can do K and G. Ka, ga. There's full contact at the velum. Okay. And then similarly, we have nasals. So nasal is when this the velum that I was talking about earlier, I believe cartilage that opens or closes the nasal cavity. So when it opens and the airflow is directed out the nose, we get these nasal sounds like ma, na. Yeah, so for bilabial nasal, remember 2 lips, so it's going to be the same place as pa and ba, but the velum opens and the air comes out of the nose instead of the mouth. Ma, ma. Instead of pa, ba, it's ma, ma. The only difference is that the air comes out of the nose. That's why we can make the M sound with our mouth closed, because the air is coming out of the nose. But we can't make the P or the B sound with our mouth closed. It doesn't work. It would just go to the M sound. Yeah. Other nasals in English include the N sound, na, na, which similarly, it's the same exact thing as the T or the D, but the air is coming out of your nose. Ta, 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 na, na, na. Your tongue is in the exact same place, but with the N, the air is switched to come out the nose instead of the mouth. Okay, other nasals. I will go through these later when I'm doing the entire chart, but basically that's nasal. Okay, and then trill is when there's like constant contact being made really, really fast, like do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, and it makes a trill sound. This one, the bilabial trill, would be when you like flap your lips and go brr, brr. That's a bilabial trill. Would be the bilabial trill. In Spanish, you're a Spanish speaker, and a word like perro, perro, I'm kind of exaggerating it, but the ra, that's a alveolar trill. So it's the same place as T or D, da 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 da, but you're doing it like really fast. Ra, da da da, ra. Okay, trill. And then there's a uvular trill where you do it with your uvula. It's the sound that Chewbacca makes. I can't do that. Ra, I can't do it. Okay. And then we have tap or flap, which is very similar to a plosive, but instead of like pressure building up and then the air exploding out, it's just you quickly tap your tongue against the place. So for the alveolar, it would just be like da, 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 da. Instead of like da, it's da, da. You can feel the pressure, but da, 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 da. I believe in Japanese, narirurero, if you speak Japanese or know it or studying it, their RL sound is actually this, the alveolar tap. Da da da, narirurero, narirurero. It's not dariruredo or lalilulelo or rarirurero. None of those. It is narirurero, narirurero. Yeah. And then fricative, you might notice that there's a lot in this category. Fricatives happen literally everywhere in the mouth. These are fun. There's tons of fricatives. Common fricatives in English is the F and V sound. Fa and va. So fricative is where the contact is not closed, but it's super close to cause friction between the air and the really close contact. So let's compare T to S. So with the T, we know it's a plosive, so there's full contact at the alveolar ridge. Ta, ta. But if we make it a fricative, same place, but sa, sa. Go ta, 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 and sa. You'll feel your tongue is in the same place, but with sa, your tongue isn't quite touching the top of the mouth there. It's really close, and the air is like causing friction. Yeah. But fa, sa. You'll know it's a fricative if you can feel the airflow being pushed out. It causes a strong flow of air to come out. Sa, fa. Oh, what's another one that we have in English? Oh, sha, sha. Tha, tha. Fricatives, fricatives. Fricatives are fun. There's so many. Okay, and then next we have lateral fricative. Lateral fricatives are rare, and I think that the only language I know of that has, I'm sure there's more, but that I personally know of that has one of these two sounds is Welsh, and it is a lateral fricative, which means it's the same thing that's happening in a fricative, but the friction is happening at the sides of the tongue, so literally like lateral to the side. this would be pronounced shla, shla. It's really weird for me to say. I had to practice this a lot to get it, but shla, shla. Yeah, I like shla, shla. Maybe I'm not saying it very well, so sorry to everyone. Yeah, and then we have approximant. Approximant is where there's no contacts being made, but it's like kind of close, but there's space. So this is the English R sound, ra, ra, ra. If you make the ra sound, ra, 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 you can tell that your tongue is not touching anywhere, right? There's no contact being made. It's getting kind of like close, like your tongue is coming up to this alveolar place, but it's not touching and it's not close enough to cause friction. So it's the same as maybe the S sound or the Z sound, but bring your tongue farther down and it'll turn into the ra, like za, ra. Similar, right? Okay, another English approximant is this Y sound. It's written as a J. Yeah. Okay, and then lastly, we have the lateral approximant, which same how lateral fricative meant fricative on the side. Lateral approximant means approximant, it's happening on the side of the tongue, where it's like getting close but not quite causing any friction. In English, the only lateral approximant that we have is at the alveolar ridge with the la, 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 la. So we have ra and la, ra and la. Yeah. Okay, so now I believe I have gone through all of the places of articulation and manners of articulation, and I think just I would like to go through the entire chart now. It is hot in here. My hair's getting frizzy. Sorry, everyone. Let me see. Okay. I wanted to write out the letters on here and then say it for you. So I'm just going to go. I'm wondering if I should go across or down. I think I'll go across and do like all the plosives and all the nasals. So I'm going to go through and then I'll only like stop and write it when it's a sound that we don't have in English that you might not be very familiar with, okay? Okay, so starting with the bilabial plosive, pa, ba, P and B, very easy, right? And then we come over here to alveolar plosive, ta, da. Again, we have these in English, so not too tricky. And then the retroflex plosives, we do not have these in English, so they're a little bit maybe tricky, so I'll write them down for you. Ta, da. So it looks like a T and a D, but they have these curly tails. Most of the retroflex sounds are, yeah, if I look at the chart here, they all have this curly tail. Yeah, but this would be ta and da, ta, da. There's something that I didn't explain, and I'm realizing that now, and that is voicing. You might be wondering, or you might have been wondering, why there's two sounds in each category, like bilabial plosive has two. My apologies, I didn't explain. So these are exactly the same. All these pairs are exactly the same, but the one on the left is called voiceless, and the one on the right is called voiced. Voiceless and voiced. Voiceless, voiced. Yeah, sorry. Voiceless and voice. Basically, the difference is that a voiceless sound is, I guess you could say, a whispered sound, and this happens when the vocal cords are completely open. Voiceless, voiceless, voiceless. And so there is no friction happening between the vocal cords to create a voiced sound, your normal voice. So they're totally open, making it whispered. There's no vibration happening. So when you whisper or when you make a voiceless sound, if you put your hand on your throat like this, you won't feel any But when we make voiceless sounds or speak in a normal voice, you can feel that there's vibrations happening, right? So if we look at some examples of voiced versus voiceless sounds, I'll just write a few for you. Okay, so I put 3 pairs of voiceless and voiced sounds, T and D, P and B, and K and G. Each of these pairs have the exact same place and manner of articulation, but the only difference is that these are voiceless and these are voiced. So when you say T, ta ta ta, ta ta ta, ta ta ta, t t t t, your vocal cords are completely open. But when you say D, da 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 da, your vocal cords are closing, which causes vibration. So ta 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 ta. It's a little difficult when you're trying to say like ta and feel that it's voiceless because we're putting a vowel after, and vowels are always voiced. Like the ah sound is voiced, right? So when you put like a T in front of it, ta, it eventually like vibrates. So be careful. I know it, you might be like, no, when I say the T sound, it's vibrating, but you're not. It's just the vowel after that's vibrating. Sorry. And then P and B. Did I say B? Yeah. Sorry. Pa, 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 up, pa. And then K and G. Again, these are the same, but K is voiceless, k, 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 versus g, 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 g. Okay, so that explains why there are these pairs in the chart. Now you know, on the left, voiceless, on the right, voiced, okay? Sorry, I didn't explain that earlier. My mistake. Sorry, everyone. Where did we leave off? Okay, I think we were at the retroflex, yeah. Okay, and the next palatal. I decided that I'm not gonna write them down because this video is getting quite long. I'm just gonna go through and say these. So the palatal plosive is gonna be kya, kya. I'm not very good at this. Then the voiced version would be kya, kya. It sounds like a ka and a ga, but your tongue is touching the roof of the mouth and it's flat. Then moving on to velar, you have this in English. Ka, ka, ga, ga, ka, ga. Okay, and the next uvular, same thing as K and G, but move it back a little bit to where your uvula is making contact. It's gonna be ga, ga, no, ka, ka, and ga, ga. I'm not very good at that either. Ga and ga, and it sounds very uvular-y. You can tell the uvular is making those sounds. Okay, and then finally the glottal stop would be like or like maybe a British person be like British, British. Ba, ba. You can't do the glottal stop at the beginning. Yeah, you can, but you won't really hear it. It's just like stopping airflow. So it's easiest to hear in between 2 vowels. Okay, those were all of the plosives. Now it's time for the nasals, alright? Starting with M, ma, bilabial, ma. Next is labiodental. So same thing, but it's with your top teeth and your bottom lip. So make the M sound like this. It'll be like ma, ma, ma. So it's, yeah, ma, 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 ma. It's the only difference. Okay, and then at the alveolar ridge, na, 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 N sound. And then retroflex, bring your tongue back a little bit more, go na, na, na. And then palatal will be like nya, nya, nya. Velar be nga, nga, nga. Like the ing sound. Back to the uvular would be nga, nga, nga. Okay. Please don't laugh at me. These are all valid sounds that exist across languages, and they may be unfamiliar to you, which may make you think that they sound weird, but maybe some sounds in English sound weird to speakers of other languages. It's all relative. Okay, trill is the, again, like the type sound. So bilabial trill is tra, tra. alveolar trill, ra, ra. And then uvular trill, I can't do it. Some people just can't do it. I'm one of those people. Can you make the Chewbacca sound? Like, I can't do it. I can't do it. Okay. And then fricative, bilabial fricative would be hua, hua. Actually, this is the F sound in Japanese. A lot of people, or English speakers who learn Japanese, think that going like the F-U sound, fu, it's not F-U, fu, it's fu, fu, fu. It sounds like H-U and F-U combined, but it is, yeah. So put your lips together like you're gonna go pa, 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 but then just like blow through and go fu, fu, fu. It's the Japanese fu. It's like ha, hi, fu, he, ho in Japanese. Just saying. Okay. And then if you make that voice, it's gonna be hoo, hoo, hoo. It's hard for me to do. Hoo, hoo. Okay. And then going over to labial dental. So now instead of two lips, it is lips and teeth. Fa, va. So you go fa, ha, va, fa, va. Okay. And then dental, the tongue and teeth would be fa, the. Okay. Alveolar. Go back a little bit to alveolar ridge. Sa, za, sa, za. Post-alveolar, back a little bit more. Sha, z, ja. Sha, ja. Yeah. Sha, ja. No. Sa, sha, za, ja. Okay. And then retroflex will be sha, sha, and ja, ja. I'm not very good at that. I'm really not good at these. The palatal fricative, it's like yeah, 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 and yeah, yeah. Very difficult for me. Okay, and then the velar fricative, I think this is in German. Ha, 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 and ga, 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 ga. Okay, and then uvular fricative. I hate making some of these sounds. They're very throaty, and I'm not used to it. And like and then pharyngeal, ha, ha, and then ha. I can't do the voiced one. And then finally glottal fricative, ha, 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 and then like ha, ha. I can't do the voiced one. Okay, sorry I didn't do some of these perfectly. They're very difficult for me as a native English speaker. My apologies. Okay, labiodental approximant. This sounds like wah, 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 wah. It's like you're gonna make the V sound, but you don't touch or get close to touching your lip with your teeth. It's a little bit further, like wah, 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 va, wah, wah, wah. Okay. And we have ra, 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 the R sound, velar approximant. And then retroflex approximant is like ra, ra, ra. And then palatal approximant is ya, 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 ya. Velar approximant, la, la. I'm sorry. La, la. Something like that. Basically, make the Y sound, ya, and bring it back a little bit more. La. Ya, la. Okay, and then finally, we're almost done. The lateral approximant alveolar be la, 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 L sound. And then the retroflex will be ra, ra, ra. And then the palatal will be, what is the palatal approximant? I don't remember. What is it? Huh? Ra, la, yeah, yeah, something like that. And then velar lateral approximant, la, la, la. For me, this one, this one, this one, and that one all sound the same. It's like la. So if anyone can do these, good for you, because it's very hard for me. I'm sweating. I'm sweating because I don't have my air conditioner on. I probably ended up talking a bit louder than preferred for ASMR, and I apologize, but I hope that the content was boring enough for you that it made you fall asleep. I think for some of the speaking parts, I'll turn the volume down when I edit so that it won't be so loud, because I think I started out quiet and then I just get really excited about phonetics. Sorry. Yeah, I think I'll cut this off here, and then next time I'll go to vowels and I'll teach you about the vowels that we can make as humans. Wahoo! And then some of these as well later. Yeah, let me know if this was interesting or super boring or enjoyable at all. I hope it was helpful for someone out there studying phonetics. I remember when I was taking my phonetics class, I like went to sleep listening to the sounds, and I remember thinking it would be great if someone made an ASMR video about this, so that's what I did. Okay. Yeah, thank you for watching, and sorry for any mistakes with the sounds. It took me a long time to be able to make these sounds and like memorize them, and I'm still not perfect, so don't be too hard on yourself if you're having trouble memorizing the IPA chart. You'll get there. Just keep studying. You can do it. Woohoo! And I hope this video helped you. Love you. Love you. Bye.